whatever category you fall under, don't condemn yourself. Don't feel like you're not worthy, and don't feel like you are alone. For me to be here today, I've had my fair share of financial challenges and I've made my fair share of financial mistakes. And that's one of the things that has provoked me to take this journey of financial wellness coaching, money mindset, and that sort of thing, just so that I can also try my best to help other people so that they don't make the same mistakes I have, or also just to enlighten them with whatever I'm also learning on the journey. I also want to say that I should have prepared a bit of an icebreaker sort of thing, but Mr. Mac, I think you're normally good at those things. I should have given you that task. But if you don't mind, I'm just going to go straight into the slides and try and keep this as short and precise as possible. And also give people a time to ask questions at the end or have a bit of a discussion if that's going to be helpful. One of the things I want to say before we go ahead is the fact that today is not a session to come and give you financial advice or anything like that. That is not what this is about. What we're doing today is purely exploring some dynamics that we are probably already familiar with, but all we're doing is self-examination. Self-examination that just helps us that we're getting partway through the year. It's going to be June in a few weeks. It's halfway through the year. What is it that we need to look at slightly differently for the remainder of the year for us to be able to just achieve our goals, even if it means, just slightly coming out of survival mode with the way the economy is and things like that. There are certain factors that are beyond our control entirely, but there are certain things that we can do something about, especially when it comes to our own attitude and approach to situations that we might be facing financially. Some of it could be challenging. Some of it could just mean you need to make a few adjustments, or some of it just means you need to keep doing what you're doing because you're probably doing something right. Whatever category you fall under, don't condemn yourself. Don't feel like you're not worthy, and don't feel like you are alone. For me to be here today, I've had my fair share of financial challenges and I've made my fair share of financial mistakes. And that's one of the things that has provoked me to take this journey of financial wellness coaching, money mindset, and that sort of thing, just so that I can also try my best to help other people so that they don't make the same mistakes I have, or also just to enlighten them with whatever I'm also learning on the journey. Okay, so I thought that was a very important background to share. And then I will go on to the slides. This is the topic, unraveling the mystery of money personalities. That's just a bit of an interest slide. I know a lot has already been said about who I am and what I'm all about, but I just thought I would put it on a screen and a little photo just for you to see my troop, as I like to call them. And, just a bit about my family setup, my professional background, which has been explained. I probably need to explain this third bullet point, which talks about tax compliance and consulting for UK globally mobile employees. So this is simply stating that companies that have got individuals moving in and out of the UK, my job has been for the last 12 years talking to them about their personal tax matters. Maybe they could have investments going on, or they could have certain situations going on, and they're trying to manage that between the UK and other countries. And that's one of the things that has also led me to take this direction in also trying to speak to many of our people in our community. I've also done LLP coaching, which really purely just helps me get people to where they want to go with their desired outcomes, and just by helping them change their thoughts and behaviors. Okay. And I guess I've already explained why I do money mindset coaching, purely past experiences, mistakes, just the desire for financial freedom, as most of us would want that, lessons that I've learned, and enlightenment from the day-to-day work I've been doing while I'm speaking to other people, the kind of questions they ask me, the kind of things they're curious about. I then say to myself, have I looked at this for myself, or have I looked at this for my family, or have other people in my community also thought about the impact of taxes on their income, how they can expand their investments, how they can, improve their pension, and how they can organize their inheritances and things like that. So that's really opened my eyes, which has resulted in me being keen on carrying this on. I also do public speaking, and I'm also a youth mentor. So I thought that would be helpful, guys. So what is a money personality? This is purely nothing rocket science, very basic stuff. We're talking about personality types. The same way we have personality types as ordinary people in our character, we also have a personality type that is a combination of the beliefs and attitudes as well as behaviors, right? When it comes to how we handle money, okay? And it's been proven that most things that impact the personality types is our experiences in life, our earliest life experiences. What was the kind of situation you went through even when you're growing up around money? Was it very scarce? Was it in abundance? Was it something that was spoken about? Was it something that felt like you couldn't get hold of? Was it never enough? All those kind of things have an impact on how our personality is shaped. Right? What are the cultures and norms that have shaped us? Those are the kind of things that determine our money personalities, okay? And then the other thing that also helps change that or shape that is then how we educate ourselves. And that's going to be something we're going to look at in detail as we go ahead. Why is this important? It is important because understanding your money personality is really crucial and critical in how you make your personal and financial decisions. You make better decisions if you understand your personality, and you also live a fulfilled life. Okay, which I guess we all want a fulfilled life, hence we are even making time to be on this call, because you probably think there is something you can learn that will improve you. We're all working very hard. We all have long-term plans, short-term plans, because we want to have and live a fulfilled life. And we also want to have a healthy relationship with money. Okay, now you need to discover your personality. And probably for most people today, I don't think it's really about discovering your personality. I think it might be about just getting a confirmation of where you stand and what it is that you might want to change or what it is that you might want to keep doing. So there are online tests that you can actually do, which test you on the kind of personality you have. And I've seen this a lot, in particular on investment platforms, like a very popular one in the UK or in the US and around the world is Vanguard. When you go onto Vanguard and you want to create even a stocks and shares ISA, they take you through a very quick 5-question series, just so they can gauge what your money personality and risk tolerance and attitude is, just so that you can be directed to something that's much more suitable to the kind of investments you're looking at. So I guess it's really important to determine what your personality is. And then obviously if you need to get a money coach, you can also go down that route. Okay. So I hope that's self-explanatory. Now, what are the most popular money personalities? Now, before I even get open on these slides, one of the things you're going to notice is you're going to see your own personality and probably have a laugh about that. You're going to say, oh, that sounds like my sister, or that sounds like my mom, or that sounds like my brother, or that sounds like my wife or my husband. You start to see traits of people that you're familiar with that hold those personalities, but also where you stand. And it might be that some of us have got a blend of all those personalities, but the question then becomes, what is the ratio? What is the balance? Is it the right thing for you? Do you need to adjust or change anything? Okay, so this is very elementary. I'll start with the spender. Okay, now a spender is a person that will enjoy the thrill of just acquiring goods and experiences. They want to buy as much as they can, they want to spend as much as they like, and they want to experience anything and everything. Their enjoyment and joy comes from the things that they buy and how they treat themselves and they treat others. They've got a bit of a splash going on sometimes. And why this is in red is this can be the extreme side of it. They tend to live in the moment only, okay, and totally ignore any long-term consequences when it comes to making financial decisions. Shopping is great. We all need, we've got necessities, but the question is, are we spending more on needs and wants? What's the ratio on that? The second category we're going to look at are the savers, or you can call them hoarders, when they become extreme, okay? Now, you will know that the savers will take pleasure in having money saved, and that's where they find their fulfillment, because they're building up their financial reserves, and that's what gives them happiness. When they see a big bank balance in their savings account, or everybody would want to see that, I expect, but that's where their thrill is more than anything else. And they exercise an extreme amount of caution in how they spend. So you find that people that are like this tend to exercise caution on their spending, and they also prioritize long-term financial stability. Okay, they're not into things for quick rewards. They've got a fear of running out of money, and sometimes this fear can cause extreme anxieties. I remember speaking to a lady once who said that where every time she spends money, she has almost an anxiety attack. And I thought, okay, now this is getting a bit extreme. We don't want to get to that extent, because obviously we need to spend for a livelihood. But for some people, just seeing money go down, they now become totally stressed. Okay. But they love to save and store finances, and they're very risk averse. Why this is in the red? They may struggle with enjoying life and supporting basic needs. They become so tight to themselves, so tied to their families, that they live life like they don't have anything, but because they're scared of spending. That's an extreme that we don't want to end up in. So that these are two very obvious and basic personalities, and you might be able to relate to both of them, or one of them in your own manner. Now we move on to the third one. We're going to look at planners. Okay, now planners, they place a high value of structure, right, in how they do, and they organize themselves. They have a budget that's created, and they know every incoming and every outgoing. They're diligent in their tracking of expenses, and they're always prioritizing the financial planning. Okay, goal setting is critical. Like, I spoke to someone who has a financial goal setting exercise. I actually do it as a couple. They have a Sunday evening that they use once a month to purely plan their expenses for the month, their incomings and their outgoings. What are they putting in the emergency fund, and all that kind of stuff. So that's a good example of planners. So they want to have a clear roadmap. Of course, you can't control everything in life. You won't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but it's about having that structure in place in case of emergencies or whatever. Then you have the risk takers. Okay, now risk takers, they're comfortable with assuming some kind of financial risks, and they're probably attracted to investments that offer high potential returns. So they're the people who will tend to opt for the things that will earn them the most money in the quickest amount of time. They want that get rich quick thing, or they want that thing that's going to spin their money around very quickly, and they're willing to take that risk. Okay, and sometimes they can also take calculated risk, but they can also exhibit openness, okay, to opportunities and investments that may come their way. The worst of these kind of people is when they now get into the gambling zone. And this is what we wouldn't obviously desire, because obviously it creates a lot of problems and frustrations. They probably become addicted and all that. So this diagram here is a generic one to look through the risk spectrum of the kind of things that investors would look at, generally speaking, in the world that we live in at the moment. I guess in countries like in Africa, it's slightly different, because maybe people are looking at land, and people are looking at animals and livestock as well, you know, and maybe building properties, etc. This example here is more to do with things that you probably don't have in hand physically, but you can see that the red line there shows you the kind of stuff that becomes more risky. But we would have to have a whole session about these things. I just wanted you to have a quick look at what risk takers would get into. The next section are the avoiders. Now, avoiders tend to shy away from dealing with financial matters because they feel very fearful and guilty, or they feel ashamed of themselves, okay? And you may see that they tend to procrastinate dealing with their financial issues, or they just feel overwhelmed with responsibilities that they have to take, right? And sometimes it might not be that this is how they were born. It might just be that it's circumstances they found themselves in that have created them to become a closed cocoon to what's happening in their financial lives, okay? So you find that sometimes they get letters from the bank, they come through the door, they don't want to open it, they're getting phone calls, they don't want to speak to anyone about it, they just want the problem to fix itself, right? But in reality, we all know, if you've been through tough times, you eventually have to deal with the bills, you eventually have to deal with some kind of planning at some point, okay? So here I tried to find someone with their head buried in the sand, but that looks like white sand. But anyway, you get the point, right? I'm sure. If you do, then put some kind of emoji of some sort, and I can sort of hopefully see that you are engaged. Okay. Then we have the debtors, okay? Now debtors, personally, I don't really like to categorize this as a single personality, simply because we all have situations where we have to get into debt for good reasons. So I don't want you to feel like this is just a box that's there separately. I think the reason why it's there is for people to just recognize and assess whether the debt that they have is good or bad, okay? And sometimes there are people that are in debt and they frequently just carry debt as a lifestyle, and they struggle with efficiently managing their money and their debt, and they constantly rely on living on credit cards or loans just to cover basic expenses, okay, which can lead to a lot of financial stress. Which is why I said at the beginning, some of the stuff we're going to talk about is quite sensitive, but we need to deal with this, right? And we are also going to see where we can get help and all that kind of stuff. But it leads to financial stress and hindrances to even achieving long-term financial goals. Okay, and so this is obviously not a desirable position to be in, but being a debtor is not always a bad thing. Like I said, there's also good debt and bad debt. So if you have a house, you probably have a mortgage, right? Some people have a strategy on overpaying their mortgage because they deliberately want to come out of that debt as soon as possible. In as much as it's a 25-year mortgage, they have a plan in place that they're actually going to chip this away in a certain number of years. I've got someone who has become a very good friend, her and the husband, and they were showing me the strategy they used to pay off their mortgage in 10 years, and they've achieved that. Okay, so it's really just kind of realizing that, okay, I'm carrying this, you know, what am I doing and how am I going to, am I getting the best interest rates? Can I change anything to make it cheaper? You know, do I need help? Okay, so there are obviously different types of debts, and some we need, because for you to have a good credit rating, you also need to have some level of debt that's also traceable, right? So with credit cards, there's some people that are very good at managing their credit cards, and they essentially spend, they probably use essential shopping for their credit cards, you know, for essential shopping, but they pay it off each month the same way they would if they were using their debit card, and they purely do that just so that they have a good credit rating. Okay, so this is a whole topic, a whole Zoom session for another day, but I wanted to make sure that I flag this, especially for the people that end up finding themselves as debtors for much longer than they wish to or desire to, because there will be a way out, and it's important to then address where you stand with that. This one is another personality which I thought I need to bring to light. Now, I know I had spoken about the risk takers, which sounds like investors, but this was a separate category because you've got a group of people who possess knowledge about investments, and their enjoyment is in exploring various investment opportunities. That's where they get their kick, you know, from. Right? So they actively manage their portfolios, they stay up to date with market trends, they actively seek avenues of, you know, increasing their wealth. And these investors know that there's a difference between income and wealth, because income is only what you earn, right? So even if you earn 20,000 a year, or you earn 50,000 a year, or you earn 150,000 a year, some of all these categories, some people, their expenditure actually then exceeds that income, right? Whatever level it is. I was listening on the radio, if people listen to LBC radio in particular, it's one of my favorite channels and stations, and they were having a big discussion about how in the UK, the people that were considered as the high earners that earn, let's say 100K and above, how they're really struggling now, because the life and expenditure they've set themselves on, they can't keep up anymore with the cost of living. So you'll be thinking, oh, they're all right, they earn 100,000, but they're actually more miserable than somebody who earns much less because of the level of expenditure. There's no accumulation of wealth going on just because they earn a bigger number, okay? So we need to be people that are conscious of what is the earning, what is going on with the earning, and what is going on with the accumulation. What are we able to still keep? What are we still able to get hold of? And are we educating ourselves in areas of investments that we want to adopt to? I've had to learn certain things about, I don't know, the stock market, at some point the crypto market. I had to learn about that. I've had to learn about the risks associated with all that. But 5 years ago, I didn't quite know about these things to the level that I do now. And I probably will know more in another 2-3 years' time, because there is an interest in learning. So you need to obviously grasp and understand whether this is a personality that you want to add to your own blend of how you manage your money and the relationship you have with money. Okay. Now we've explored the personalities. Why? How are they going to impact you? How do they affect your life? The first important area is in your relationships, okay? And most of us will know that money personalities will have an impact on your personal relationships, okay? Are you a generous person? Are you reasonable? Are you contentious? How does that impact how you balance your your budget in the home, if you have a spouse, or if you do things with your siblings that involve money, or with your parents, the personality you have towards money will always have an impact on your relationship. If you are in partnership with someone, maybe you're in a business association with someone, what the blend of your personalities has a huge impact on the success of that project. Okay, so again, that's something that will obviously be apparent in every given setting, and it's a big deal, especially for couples. Okay, then you have careers, how it impacts your career. So your money personality can have an impact on how you approach your work and your earnings, things like your job choice and the risk appetite. Are you working a lot more hours, or are you changing jobs in such a way that you have this drive to earn more? Or are you not ambitious at all? You're happy with your salary, you're happy with your minimum wage, you've got no issues with where you are. That's the personality you have. You don't thrive to do much more. There are some people that are like that. Okay, so that has an impact. Are you driven? Are you having conversations to enhance your earning capacity in your workplace? I remember last year I had to have some very strong conversations at work where, they will be promising you a promotion and all this kind of stuff. And I had to drive that conversation, say, okay, this is what you said I should do. I have done it. Is there anything else that you expect me to do? Because I was trying to push to drive myself for my progression, right? If I'd not done that, I would have just stayed stagnant, and no one else is going to do that for me. Okay, so I guess that's a big importance, area of importance. And then you've got the quality of life. Like this, you can't money. I mean, people say money doesn't buy happiness. And some people say, okay, that's because you haven't had money. That's why you're saying that. So that's a very debatable statement. Of course, you can't buy your health with it. You can't buy strong relationships with it, etc. But you can also get some level of satisfaction, because it's evident that those that are financially stable tend to have less worry about financial matters, and and they spend in ways that match their values. Okay, and they're able to lead happier lives, right? So in Shona, there's a saying that goes, "Hapana singade chakanaka." In other words, no one doesn't like good things, right? If you are a normal person, you want to have a good life. You want to have a good quality life. So this is why your money personality matters. You can't be an avoider and say that you want a good quality life. That doesn't tally. Okay, if you want to have a good quality life, then you have to deal with the matters that you are facing, and you have to find a way, that is constructive and that is helpful, that will help you improve the quality of your life. Okay. And then the other point I wanted to share is the fact that individuals may demonstrate a combination of the money personalities. It doesn't mean that you sit in one box as a saver only or as a spender only, right? Like I said at the beginning, these are obvious things, but we're just talking them through just for us to reflect and just for us to do self-examination. So people can exhibit different aspects of each personality depending on the circumstances that they're facing, okay? You may have had a slightly different money personality 2-3 years ago, simply because of the situation or circumstance you were in. And that doesn't necessarily depict that that's where you have stayed right now, okay? Now, these are some very basic tips for understanding and managing your money personality, okay? And some of them can be expanded more, but I've really tried to keep it as concise as possible. We don't want to spend the whole evening on this. So first of all, it's important for you to explore your past, okay? People that are, I don't know, psychologists or counselors and things like that, they do realize that sometimes problems that are exhibited later in life are as a result of the past. Okay, so what are the kind of beliefs you've had around money in the past, and look back at that. Has that shaped your money habits in any ways, or has it brought any money triggers? Has it been helpful? Some people have had good experiences, which have therefore translated into exploring a past that's going to be positive, but not everybody will have a positive past to explore. So you can't change what's happened in the past, but reflecting on it and understanding how it impacts you now is very good for you to then be able to move forward. Okay. Education. Now, I can't emphasize this any further, like beyond this. Reading books, reading articles, watching content where most of us are on social media by now, what kind of pages do you follow on your Instagram, when you go on TikTok, when you're on Facebook? Is it stuff that's actually giving you some levels of education, good quality education? We don't have to register for courses as much as we needed to 20 years ago, because there is so much knowledge now available in the palm of our hands. How much are we educating ourselves? Are we listening to audiobooks, right? I've become almost addicted to that. And it's probably a good addiction where, you know, when I'm cooking away or doing whatever I'm doing, or when I'm on a walk or whatever, that's when I'm going through my audiobooks, because I sometimes don't always have the time to sit down and read books physically anymore because life is so busy, right? But I'm making sure that the kind of content I'm consuming is giving me some kind of education. Getting a coach, a money coach. There's some people that ask me to sit down with them and help them out so that they can achieve their goals, because to them, that's the way that they want to be accountable to someone who then holds their hand. Okay. Or you can use whoever is at your disposal. Take courses on financial or personal finance, and attending Zoom calls like this. You have literally just ticked this box tonight, right? In as much as we're not going to do an exam or anything like that, it's feeding into your education in one way or another. Okay. And educating yourself through new insights and the people that are around you. Okay. Another obvious one would be budgeting and planning. Like, budgeting is one of those things that we know how to spell the word and we know what it means, but not many of us do it. So I think most apps, banking apps now, are quite helpful. They try and summarize, you know, how you've spent your money in the month on different things, whether you've done entertainment or you've done food, groceries, or etc. But that's in retrospect, after it's already happened. How many of us project our planning and our budgeting ahead of the month to know that, okay, obviously direct debits that are fixed, you're gonna know that number, it is what it is, right? But what about other things, the incidentals, the things that are within your control that you can adjust? Okay, we need to get back to just being able to set simple goals and put measures. You know, some people used to say to me, oh, it's so easy for you because you're an accountant. I was like, guess what? I was like the worst person at this. You know, the fact that I had studied accounting as a course does not, that was head knowledge. That is learning to do a job. It doesn't translate to my personality. It doesn't translate automatically, because some people say, oh, accountants are stingy and all that kind of stuff. That only comes from the aspect of being able to compare costs, because that is what you do. You're trying to minimize costs and expand profits, right? So you automatically geared to do that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good money handler. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're good at budgeting or you're good at saving, because some of these things are behavioral issues. Okay. And I remember even, you know, when I got married, I discovered my husband was very disciplined. Like, he was really, really good with money, and he put me to shame. I was like, oh my God, I need to learn from this guy. You know, that's one of those things, right? And so it's not about your profession. It's not about, you know, what you've done at school. It's more about the behaviors that you attribute and the disciplines, right, that you then embed within yourself. Okay, so do as much as you can to create budgets and set goals and make adjustments to what contributes to that. And then the last bit is about being honest. I don't think we can beat this, because being aware of your strengths and weaknesses is very, very important. And just being aware of the fact that I need to fix this, you know, or I need to get help, or I need to change, or I need to eat less takeaways, right? Or I need to make sure I'm looking at how I'm spending, or am I saving enough? There's so much that we can do in analyzing our spending or our saving culture and things like that. And that starts with being honest. Being honest with ourselves helps. It also helps having constructive conversations, even as couples. It helps with constructive conversations with business partners, etc. So be aware of your strengths and weaknesses. Everybody has got that. And don't be ashamed of it, as long as you are addressing it and doing something about it. Okay, so I feel like I've spoken a lot, right? So this page has purely got some resources, because I felt like we can't just come off this call, talk about the personalities, and that's it. These are 4 books that I personally have benefited from. And I've done them as, some I've done as audiobooks. I've got physical copies, and I've done a bit of reading physically on 2 of them. But some of them I've just done as audiobooks, right? And even if you go on YouTube, okay, and you type these book titles, some people have done something very clever and summarized books for us, guys. Like, you can do a 200-page book over a 25-minute summary on YouTube. And you learn so much. Okay, so these are just titles that I'm throwing at you that have helped me as well in my journey. Okay, these are really, really books I'd highly recommend just to help you with your mindset around managing your money or your personality around that. And then I've also put some support services. Okay, if you're in the UK and you're struggling with debt, okay, you're not alone, right? You can contact Citizens Advice, you can contact Step Change, you've got the National Deadline, you've got the Money Helper, you've got Age UK, and so many others that I've not put on there. Okay, don't be like the man that had his head in under the sand. All right, get some help, even if it means that, there will be some compromise, there will be some sacrifice, but what you're looking at is a long-term gain of you fixing the matters that are impacting your finances. Okay, so please, 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 if you've not read any of these books, or if you need help with managing debt, then I would really, really highly recommend that you do something about that. Okay, then lastly, we're talking about the concluding matters as well as how you can stay in touch with me. So after everything I've said, after all has been said and done, I'll just repeat some final concluding remarks. Okay, self-awareness is key. Okay, like anything in life, if you want to make progress, if you want to make changes, if you want to improve yourself, you have to start with self-awareness. Understand your money personality, your strengths and your weaknesses, and just make better decisions around your finances. Nobody's going to do that for you. Okay, and we have to take this responsibility ourselves. And for people with children in particular, this is very important because it determines what you're also feeding them. Okay, like this morning, my son was telling me that he said, "Oh, mommy, did you know that Ronaldo might break up with his wife?" I said, "Why?" She said, "Oh, just because all she wants to do is spend the money." And so his mom doesn't also like her, but she just spends money, mommy. She doesn't save anything. I said to him, "So what do you learn about that?" And he said, "Well, people need to be better at budgeting." And this is from an how old is he? 10, sorry, 10-year-old, right? And it was a very interesting conversation, but it was already starting to show me that, in as much as we might just be having a basic conversation, he felt he needed to share that because these are things we talk about. Okay. And he knew it would be an interesting conversation for us to engage in, right? So please, we need to really improve, if we have to, in how we make our decisions to achieve our financial goals, and make it a topic of discussion that we can speak about. Okay, and teach others from our mistakes as well. We also need to avoid extremes. So, when I went through all the 7 different personalities, there were some aspects that were in red because they can become the extreme. Like, you can be a saver, but if you're then overdoing it to the point that you're depriving your livelihood to the 100th degree, it's not good for you. Okay. We all need to spend, but you don't want to spend excessively. Okay, so there's a balance in all of this. If you're a risk taker, take reasonable, calculated risk, right? Don't just jump into anything and everything because you're just a risk taker. There needs to be a way that you measure that and you manage that, right? So avoid extreme. Adopt a healthy balance between saving and spending, as well as investing, like I've mentioned. But most importantly, don't let money control your life. If we let money control our lives, we'll be so unhappy. I know it's an integral part of our lives, but there is more to life beyond money as well. Okay, happy relationships with our families and friends. Okay, keeping our bodies physically healthy as much as we can, eating healthily. Just having a positive attitude in all that we do, and all sorts of and other things. Don't let money control your life, but obviously it is important. And most importantly, we can't re-emphasize this, invest in yourself. The best investment you can make is in yourself. And even Warren Buffett, who is the greatest investor of all time, has said that the best investment you can make is in yourself. The more you learn, the more you earn. So please get educated. I've shared a few resources in a nutshell. I've not shared too much, but make sure you improve your money management skills. Like I said to you personally, where I was 10 years ago, where I was 5 years ago is not where I am now. And I don't expect to be in the same position 2-3 years down the line. So because I have a conscious drive to keep investing in my education or keep investing in myself. Okay. So in terms of keeping in touch, you can stay in touch with me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. These are the names I use. Salome Ru on Facebook, Salome Ru on Instagram. Rumbi Salome Chamboko on LinkedIn. I think it's just Rumbi S Chamboko, actually. I should double check that. And then YouTube, the channel is called Building You Salome Ru. The YouTube channel is still quite new. So I'm currently like working on dropping one video a week at the moment. So if you want to stay connected to that, you can subscribe and just kind of make sure you get the notifications when I drop the videos, because I'll be covering various topics to do with personal finance, as well as, you know, productivity and yeah, your investments and all that kind of stuff. So that's me done. I will close the presentation and we can have a bit of a quick chat. What time is it? It's 7:43. I think I've exceeded by about 5 minutes, perhaps. I'm not sure. I hope I can be forgiven. But yeah, I hope you found it helpful. And like I said, this wasn't a technical presentation. It wasn't anything deep. It's purely just us having a self, you know, examination. So if you have any questions, or if you've put something in the chat, I'm just having a quick look at anything that was added. Thank you for participating. Thank you. Are you a spender, saver, avoider? Look at financial health check. Yes, that's true. Banks do financial health checks. Thank you for sharing that. Very informative. Excellent. Thank you. All right. Okay. Over to you, Mr. C, who is known as Sarah today for some reason, like you said. You can handle the questions if there's any.
Thank you. Thank you, Rumbi, for being a voice of our generation and taking some time to impact us and changing our mindset. Thank you for the masterclass. Some people pay top dollar just to hear this information. But in summary, what you have just been doing is just holding a mirror in front of us so that we discover our own personality. I guess, like you said in your own personal testimony, it's a long journey. And I hasten to add, without overcooking your meal, that I think it also causes for us to be patient with ourselves. It's not going to be an overnight fix. If you are in a relationship, be patient with your partner. You might be in two different extremes. The other one is a saver, the other one is a spender. Maybe find a way of finding the middle ground. Thank you for the signposting. That's very important. You might be buried and knee deep in debt, or you just don't know how to come out of the situation.